I've got two containers in my hand, both of which have packaging for CBD products. One of these contains a legal product, one of them contains actual marijuana, still illegal in the state. Can you tell which is which?
Before, we went off the smell, we went off the look, we knew what marijuana smelled like, knew what it looked like, testified in court to that. But now that we've got the hemp flower out here that smells exactly like marijuana, looks like marijuana, how do we prosecute that?
Not long ago, a St. Joseph police officer stops a man who has this container in his possession. Green Life CBD hemp flower. It says it's legal in all 50 states. And if it has less than 3% THC, it's definitely legal here in Tennessee.
If I stop someone on the side of the road and they say that this is actually hemp, how do I prove that it's not hemp and it's actually marijuana?
The officer looks at the container. To the cop, the material smells like marijuana. It looks like marijuana. According to Chief Adam Brewer, there's no quick and easy way to know.
It sets up civil liability issues. I don't want to falsely arrest someone if they're doing something legal, but I'm here to enforce the laws of Tennessee. So technically, if you have marijuana in your possession, I'm supposed to prosecute it, but how do I tell that? And if you have hemp and you are legal, I don't want to charge you with marijuana and falsely arrest you.
We go to the local convenience store where hemp flower products are sold legally. 7 Days Hemp claims that smoking it can relax you. While that may be true, it's making some longtime law officers anxious because legal and illegal look so similar.
Well, I talked with an assistant of the district attorney there. They agreed that it's something we're going to have to research. They're looking into it as well, and they agree that it's a complex issue.
So have you guessed which container is marijuana? It's the one on the left. The driver was cited after admitting he put pot in the CBD flower container to disguise it.
If he would have just said it's hemp flower, we would have just had to go with it being hemp flower. You know, on the side of the road, there's no way to say it otherwise.
In Lawrence County, Andy Cordan, News 2.
Hey, what's up, you guys? I haven't been on for a while, and I'm gonna let y'all know exactly why. But yeah, I have been doing hemp reviews. I haven't actually lately, but we'll go into the reason why. But I wanted to discuss the legality of hemp, and specifically about where I live in Texas. And something happened to me about 3 months ago, and then I stopped. You know, I still use hemp, but I haven't been doing what I normally do with hemp because of this. But yeah, I just want to talk briefly about hemp overall, but really about its legality. Now, if you live in Texas, yes, according to federal law, up to 0.3 Delta 9 THC is legal, but that's federally, you know, and since they actually put the farming bill and made it really into law, now Texas have to make their own individual law, basically upgrade their laws and everything to come with the same terms of the federal. But in this transition period, hemp isn't legal, and I'll tell you why. Well, because they haven't made a specific bill for it. But this is the concern. Okay, 3 months ago, I actually got pulled over by was it a state trooper? Yeah, it was a state trooper, and I wasn't smoking, but I had smoked that day. I smoked some hemp flower that day, and so when he came to the car, he said he smelled marijuana, and I told him, sir, maybe you might be smelling. I don't smoke marijuana. I actually smoke cannabis, and to be more specific, hemp. So he said, right when I said that, he was like, sir, step out of the car. I said, no, there's no probable cause. And at that time, it was in the gray area. This is before the hemp bill, so there was kind of gray area. But I mean, hemp was basically, I mean, the laws, people didn't really know about hemp as far as law enforcement. But luckily, this law enforcement, he actually listened to me because I do know, well, my dad it's friends with a lot of law enforcement in the town I stay in. But okay, he said, well, just let me know what you say you have hemp. Well, let me see it. I shouldn't have gave nothing to him, but I wanted to be as cooperative as possible, so they wouldn't try to do anything stupid. So I gave him, I think it was a half ounce. I had a half ounce. So he got his field test, and lo and behold, he tested it and it tested positive for what he said, marijuana. But people, but I argued. I said, yeah, hemp. Hey, well, he came back. He was like, well, we got a problem. He showed me the test, and it said, he verbalized it. Yeah, it tested positive for marijuana. I said, there's no way. So he showed me. He was showing me the test, and I looked at it. It said it tested positive for THC, and I explained to him. I'm like, well, that says THC. So hemp, and I had the paperwork with me, luckily, and I said hemp contains 0.3 THC. And I said, does your test even differentiate between Delta 9 THC and THCA, THCV? He, at that time, he didn't know what to say. So it was like, oh, I'm gonna listen to you. I know your family. Look, I can't let you go scot-free. So I'm gonna take the product, and if this does test positive for marijuana, we'll have a warrant for your arrest. So I was like, oh man, I'm out of there. So I'm thinking, okay, well, he let me go. So I'm freaking out, and this is around the time my YouTube page was getting good. So I was like, I was very, I guess, just nervous. I was like, I've been on edge. So at that time, I just stopped posting videos, everything altogether. Cause I'm like, man, I just need to get it. I don't want to have no other charge or nothing. But about 3.5 weeks later, they called me. They actually left a voicemail, told me to call them back. And I didn't call them back because I was like, well, they didn't say I had a warrant, so I'm not even gonna call them back. So, well, they came to my front door, and it was a public service officer. He was like, hey, you're about to have a warrant for your arrest. I said, well, for what? He said, for possession of marijuana. I said, you talking about at this time? You talking about this time and place, this incident? I said, no, I possess hemp. So this public service officer actually, I don't know if he had some type of connection with the prosecutor. So he actually called, put the prosecutor on the phone. He put it on speaker. He said, don't say nothing. He said, I am arguing that, he asked them what, because in his paperwork it just said THC. So he asked them, he's like, well, do you know what THC tested positive for? They said, what do you mean? Well, there's multiple compounds of THC in marijuana, and the law, he spelled out the law, it says under this amount of Delta 9 THC. I think the paperwork was saying overall it had 3% THC, which is over the 0.3%, but it was high in Delta A THC. You hear me? So luckily, I guess by the people I know, he was like, you know what? I'm gonna talk to some few people, and I'll give you a call. Give me your cell phone number. So I gave this public service officer my cell phone number, and I think the next day he called back and he said they're dropping all charges, and I was like, what? I was like, yeah. So, but he said, he warned me. He said hemp isn't legal in Texas because we don't have a specific law for hemp. So, so since they don't have a specific law, it's technically illegal. So he could have still took me to jail for possession of marijuana, but they didn't. So, which is good for my part, but then it goes to another subject. Is it was up to their discretion. So if it's up to their discretion on a lot of these, really any charge, but marijuana charges specifically, even the hemp, just cannabis related charges. Period. It's all in the discretion of the prosecutor, the officer, the arresting officer, and all that. So what I'm getting to is I think the responsibility lies in not just the lawmakers, but if us as a community, we majority of us agree that hemp is harmless, marijuana is basically harmless, then some of these law enforcers should use their discretion and not arrest people. Luckily for me, I knew somebody, and I'm black, so excuse me, but it just show you the level of corruption and that people don't get to really don't seem to understand in America. They think there's no corruption at all, but this is where the corruption lies. Not only with the lawmakers and the whole reason, that's the whole different story of the whole reason why they made cannabis illegal. I get into that another time, but it's the fact that he used discretion and was able to just say, well, we're dropping everything. And like I said, it's good for me, perfect. But some people, what if I didn't know anybody? I'll be stuck out. So, and it's probably statistically proven that a lot of white people, they either have probably an uncle or somebody working in law enforcement or no connections in law enforcement. They're going to have a better probability of having some type of connections. So you can see how people can be disproportionately arrested for marijuana or just cannabis, period. But yeah, I just wanted to let y'all know that that's the reason why I haven't been posting, is because right now in Texas, it's not legal. But I will say this about the legalize the new hemp bill, and what people don't mention about hemp. And I only know this because even before I started smoking cannabis or even used cannabis, really didn't even know about cannabis. I had friends and cousins that did cannabis, and when I was younger, back at that time, it was like Reggie with seeds. So at that time, they would throw their seeds into outside, and it so happened that there was a flower bed. So one day, I think I was probably had to be 10 at the time. I actually was in the backyard. I was doing some yard work and I was getting ready to mow all this stuff. But anyway, I noticed this plant that stuck out. And first of all, I'd been noticing the smell while I was back there, and I knew that smell was similar to either a skunk or something that they were, it basically a skunk. But lo and behold, it was a plant right there, and that was my first experience with cannabis. It was a very innocent experience, and before that, though, I thought cannabis was just evil. If you came around me, I said, you got to go outside with that. You know what I'm saying? It was just, I was young. I'm like, no, cannabis is bad. But I grew that plant, and this is a story. I mean, I can tell it now because it's way back. But I grew that plant, and that plant lasted me, I think, over 3 years, because I had to learn everything about cannabis from scratch. I'm talking about YouTube videos, articles, all that, and I couldn't tell nobody because my parents, no, I couldn't tell nobody, so I had to learn everything on my own. So that's how I came to know cannabis, and the reason why people end up, well, this is a whole different story, but the reason why people end up calling me Hempmaster. But yeah, that was my innocent experience with cannabis, and The growing process, I had to learn all that from scratch, and I just basically started knowing the plant for itself, not just its end product. And what people don't understand is by me, because by me having experience with that and growing several plants after that, but growing the plants, hemp and marijuana is no different. Basically, the only significant difference is the delta 9 THC levels. But hemp and marijuana itself, I believe, in certain terms, are the same thing. Because they're so similar to the point to where if you had a hemp seed that its genetics are usually up under 0.3% delta 9 THC, you can grow that seed and say grow a few acres with those seeds, and some of those plants can mutate. You can adapt to if you're not replicating the right exact conditions to perpetuate those genetics. These hemp plants can easily go past 0.3% THC. They can go up to probably up to 10%. But okay, that's why they have testing. But they only test in batches. So you can say if you tested a portion of a plant, and that portion, that little batch of that batch, they take a sample out and test it in different areas, and it tests up under 0.3. But some of that product can actually test over 0.3. Even if it's a point over, it can test over 0.3% THC without technically anybody knowing it. So that doesn't seem like a big problem, right? But the problem is when, say, the situation with that truck that got stopped. Problem is, the law enforcement will start arresting people on technicalities. So they could say, well, yeah, up under 0.3 THC is legal, but your product is 0.4. But it could be an error in the testing equipment. So it's going to be hard to differentiate between hemp and marijuana in its current form. So what I suspect law enforcement to do, which is not good, there's two ways this can go. There's two ways. Law enforcement could say, okay, well, we're going to use our discretion. We're not going to arrest nobody for any cannabis. We're going to go ahead with legalization. We're going to regulate it, make it accessible. They can either do that, which they won't, because there's less jobs and all types. You're talking about prosecutors, officers, all types of things. All right. Or they could, the bad thing, they could say, we're only accepting hemp from specific sources because they've been proven to stay up under the 0.3 level. Or they could say we're banning hemp flower, different parts of the hemp plant. So what I'm saying is I think the only way is up right now. But there's a possibility we can go back because that opposition, you gotta, and I feel for this opposition, I really do, because you have to look at stuff from an economic standpoint. This cannabis, this marijuana arrest, this prohibition, is kind of tied into our economic growth, because we talk about jobs and unemployment. Well, with the marijuana prohibition, this has made families flourish for years. I'm talking about, just think about it. You have prosecutors, you have judges, you have lawyers, the jailers. You have, and their sons end up being law enforcement and stuff like that, and even jailers. So if we were to legalize cannabis and not replace having those same type of arrests, basically not replace something for these people to profit off of, something for them to flourish off of, then you can always have opposition from hemp, for hemp. You will have the opposition, and they'll lobby their way to get their things across. Like in Texas, they had a sheriff's coalition. I don't think it's coalition. A sheriff group. They came together and opposed legalization of decriminalization of marijuana. Why would they do that, knowing the reasons why marijuana is illegal? If you know exactly why the reason why marijuana is illegal, there's no way to justify making it illegal or keeping it illegal. There's no justification for it. So you can obviously, it's apparent that they're not fighting for just, public health. They're fighting for their jobs, their livelihood. This will be devastating. And the reason why I say I feel for that, because I'm an American, I'm a Texan. I understand how that could be, but that doesn't mean that innocent people or people that shouldn't be criminalized, they should be criminalized just for people to live and to have and be able to be secured in their wealth. So it's going to be opposition no matter what, unless we can find out a way to trade. Okay, we're not going to give them marijuana possession. We're going to go tough on say the other drugs. No mercy. We're gonna start maybe increasing the arrest on meth and stuff like that. But it's, and then when you get into that, there's a lot of rich people with meth and cocaine that don't want that illegal importation to stop. So you have a conflict of many interests. So I come to say my theory on him. My theory is they will have to raise the threshold of 0.3%, because there's no there's easily the product can test positive for more than 0.3%. Come on now. Even if they made it 1%, that'll be better, but it's not. I think 5% would be good, to where they can make sure plants stay up under that amount, and that way people won't be arrested for suspected marijuana, because it'll test it'll test up under 5%. But the problem goes back to the testing. This will require, I'm talking about millions of dollars to upgrade testing of these products. So basically what I'm saying is, say, just like in my case, I could have marijuana and I can argue with this is not I actually had hemp, but somebody with marijuana in a place that it's not legal, but hemp is, they can say, well, it's hemp. So that stops right then and there. If hemp is legal, that stops the law enforcement from probable cause, from everything. And that usually, that excuse that what we smell marijuana, that leads to money seizures, cash money seizures, and all that. So that's what makes the marijuana prohibition so profitable, because you can use that excuse for everything. You can we all know that money has traces of drugs. So even if they use the dog, a dog can be triggered just by money, just by smelling some detecting some type of drugs in the money. And so what I'm saying is there shouldn't be no justification for probable cause, for a search warrant, anything, unless they have direct evidence of marijuana exactly. Because just think of wasting all their time like they did with me, and for suspected marijuana, and it's just hemp. So the reason why I'm making this video is because y'all don't know how crucial this is. This time is so crucial. It's crazy. Everybody needs to make sure they're on board, and not only protests or anything like that, but actually to bring your money together and lobby. Um, um, Talk to lawyers, and I think that there's a few organizations that are helping people to lobby. But what I'm saying is that the money has to be. Um, um, the only way to change this is through money. There's no way just by voting. Um, we're going to continue to have that conflict between the law enforcement and cannabis. So we have to take what we believe and put it into law. But what another thing that they do is, like in my case, they give you a felony, and which I had the felony before, but still they give you a felony. It was a drug related felony, and the felony I do have is because they smell marijuana. But like I said, what was I saying? Oh yeah, they will have to change. We're in the time that this is crucial. Everybody needs to be on board, because they could easily use their resources and their money to lobby and retract the hemp bill. So, but I suspect everything to go up from here because they messed up with making hemp legal, because they made THC legal in that process, because hemp says it can contain up to 0.3% THC. That means you legalize 0.3% THC. So that means THC is legal, but in small amounts. So we're already here. We're already cannabis is legal, but cannabis with high THC is illegal everywhere. So in this time that we're spending on differentiating between hemp and marijuana, it's stupid. The best thing we can do economically is just to legalize cannabis as a whole. Now, in that form of legalization, you have different breeds, different strains of cannabis, which contains high THC. But just think of it like this. Because a lot of people, they say, well, medical marijuana, which is good. That's all that is good. But I think cannabis should be treated more like a household item that has different forms and maybe regulated by strain. Maybe just like you have different types of alcohol. You have alcohol that could be used recreationally. I know there are different types. Don't get me wrong. They can be used recreationally. Or you have different types of alcohol that can be used for topical, for medical reasons, sterilization. So what I'm saying is, we're spending a lot of time making these laws, and all we need to do is retract some of the laws. Hemp, it should be regulated, but like I said, cannabis should be regulated, but not in a way like tobacco, where you can't grow it. We gotta understand this is a plant. So, but what my whole reason for this video is to let y'all know that hemp and marijuana are the same thing. I don't care what nobody says, or the technicalities. I can't say that word, but I don't care about all that. I'm letting y'all know that as a person that has grown cannabis, they are the same thing. They just differentiate in THC levels. And I guess a lot of people didn't know that, considering a video just came out about that, like the people are having a hard time differentiating between hemp and marijuana. Did they not know hemp produce buds and does the same exact thing as marijuana? So I'm guessing that law enforcement didn't know that. When they heard hemp, they're thinking that it's just used only for its stalk or its fiber. But hemp and marijuana are the same thing. They just differentiate in THC. They have they're the same thing. I even one of my friends actually he did a test, and the reason why he can't publicly announce his findings is because of the prohibition on cannabis. But I've talked to him, and he told me he's done a test, and I've seen the data. But he actually soaked the hemp seeds he got from Oregon, from a reputable company in Oregon. And he soaked them in, I will not name the chemical. I don't think I can, or they probably take the video down. But yes, he soaked the seeds in a chemical, which is very common, house over the counter, actually a pharmaceutical over the counter. I don't know exactly what compound is it, and if it's found naturally, but he soaked these hemp seeds into. He soaked those hemp seeds in that compound, and sure enough, the same result happened to when he used this chemical, this compound, in marijuana seeds. When he soaked that chemical in those seeds, it boosted the THC amount, I think, to because he had a plant before it. I think it was testing at 0.5% THC. But when he soaked it, I think it raised up to 10% THC after he grew it. So that lets you know that hemp and marijuana, they're the same thing. You can get hemp. You can get marijuana from hemp, and you can get marijuana from hemp, and you can get hemp from marijuana if you by crossbreeding and selection. So I just wanted y'all to know this because there's a lot of confusion going on, a lot of propaganda, and I just want y'all to be aware that hemp and marijuana is the same thing, and that this is a good sign, a very good sign that cannabis prohibition is over. It's already over, and y'all don't know it. But like I said, there's a possibility of it going completely south, a whole different way. But it's up to us to make sure that we put our monies where our mouth is, and make sure that our voices are being heard, especially someone like me that I have a felony, so I can't vote. So I have to come to platforms, and maybe I actually want to come meet my community face to face and tell them what I want to do with him, because my family, we're from a town called Moore Station. I don't know if y'all know anything about that, but I'm from Texas. My grandpa from Texas, great grandpa from Texas, but their family founded a city that my family has been living in for years, and we all have a low income, but we have land, we have all this stuff, and we're descendants of farmers. So it's just sad to see a town that's predominantly black town, but has no industry supporting themselves, not even gas station. But it's I seen that significance, and I said I want to now that hemp is beginning to flourish, and I want to be able to get a hemp license in my homeland, and actually develop that community. And but yeah, that's just something that I'll be working on here pretty soon. Actually, as soon as I hear a word on any type of hemp license, right now they're not issuing out any hemp license, and I have to see the clauses in that because I do have a criminal record, so-called criminal record. I've been arrested for marijuana and hash, so that's the felony. So, but I would like to go back to my dad's family hometown and use that hemp to invest in the infrastructure there, and even to just like these I don't want to say white, but this, like some people in America have profited off of the prohibition of cannabis, and their families will be well off for generations for it. I want to get in the hemp business, and instead of running away from everybody, I want to come back to my town and enrich it, and hopefully even grow the town. Because a lot of times we like to move off somewhere, then complain about their laws and complain about this and that. When I mean, this is a predominantly black town with a black mayor, with so you know what I'm saying. We could be flooding to these towns and saying, I don't care about those laws. We can make city audiences about certain things. We could take over political positions, law enforcement positions, and use that discretion to say that we want to arrest anybody for cannabis. So don't give up on where you're living at, because that's home. I mean, especially a person like me that all my forefathers, everybody I know come from Texas, from America. Well, not everybody. They came to Texas from South Carolina, but for generations we've been in Texas. So, and this is my home, and I could easily just move, and I moved to Colorado, but it was kind of different, and it was inexpensive too. But I would rather be here and change, because I am a Texan. I did grow up in Texas, so why would I move off somewhere and try to change or move off somewhere? Basically, I'm being forced to move based on me wanting to possess a plant that shouldn't be so. So I would rather stay here and make sure that the next generations don't have to deal with this, because nobody should have to deal with what I've been through. But I'll get into that later. But yeah, just FYI, hemp and marijuana is the same thing.